I don't actually think this is how a professional wrestling setup is supposed to go. Actually, there's a green screen behind. I have a notebook. I am Eric Emanuel, and I am your teacher for today's lesson in the Payoff. If you're sitting me and you're new to the class, let me introduce myself. My name is Eric Emanuel, and I used to be 500 pounds. I used to be one of those people that would sit on Twitter all day and just pitch storylines and get really upset when the things I wanted to have happen didn't happen. And then I lambasted WWE, and I used to do things like share videos and pictures of how empty the crowds were with WWE years ago, and that WWE was dying, and this is why we needed AEW. And then actually now WWE is selling out all the crowds, and AEW's crowds are empty. So the first episode of The Payoff today is talking just wrestling and why I love it, and a little bit more about me. Welcome, class. For those that don't know, I used to go on the internet as a guy named Tubby Emu. It's a very interesting topic. It was a guy that essentially, when he eventually went to get help later on in life through physical therapy and rehab, and then actual therapy, he went to find out pretty much, listen, man, neurodivergent ADHD, possibly autistic. And you think about that and you realize that's why I love professional wrestling. I don't like trains. I like wrestling. And that's my thing, is wrestling. And it's my thing because my dad grew up loving wrestling. If you're one of those people, whose parents? Are you watching right now because your parent pushed it on you? For my dad, it was. And here's the thing. My dad is the living embodiment, was, because he's dead. He just recently passed away last year. It's okay, he would pop at that joke because I'll mention him in a ring sometime and then he'll call me up, or well, he won't be able to call me up, but he'll say, is it still real? Yeah, that guy? Is it still real to me, damn it, guy? That was my father. He would call me up when John Cena would in the ring and then ask me, was it real? But here's the thing. As that former YouTuber that's got to go to the WWE Performance Center, that's got to meet some of the biggest names in the game, that's got to go backstage at WrestleMania, that's got to be in a suite, I didn't do anything with the person that got me into the love of professional wrestling. See, my dad would go on to, when I first started YouTube, basically die. And he had a heart incident, heart arrhythmia. That would cause him to be landlocked in a hospital for 6+ months because something that they did while he was inside. Now, we thought he was never going to recover. Now, my parents would go on to divorce, and that would create this rocky situation the last 5 or 10 years. And I really started to just hate wrestling. I was one of those people that was becoming famous online. You would see me in videos like this basically come on and bash WWE. At this point, I wasn't going to church, I wasn't eating properly, but I was famous, so to speak. Quote unquote famous. I had views, I could get money. Basically what it was is just a YouTube SEO search funnel, and anytime I uploaded, enough people liked the video or watched it that it pushed it out big enough. And when you eventually get past in that, you lose your power in search. It's very simple. Now, with all of this responsibility came great power. And for me, it was about making money to help my family. It went away from the love of professional wrestling. The thing that got me in to doing this, and I still remember one of the very first ever events, and the only event I ever promoted. It was heavy on wrestling. It was 2012 or 2013. It was Chaz Betts. It was back in the day, if you remember, this is what they called you, it's not me, Fat Matt Hardy. This was the era of Lance Archer. I got to see live in just a little convention center in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. A convention center in Eau Claire, Wisconsin that would actually promote to it, and a father and son would show up. And that's the power and the drew I always knew I thought I had. That I was making content because deep down what I wanted was exactly that, a father and son at a wrestling show. And then I never did any of that. See, I got so caught up in coming on here and complaining about what WWE was doing because I didn't get what I wanted. Again, overlooking that, well, I'm an autistic wrestling fan. I'm also an autistic number person, and that's the reason The Payoff kind of killed my channel, because I would argue with you guys and be like, hey, it's right after WrestleMania and this guy didn't win, but if you just wait and be patient, he'll win. And then everybody be like, but I wanted him to win now. He's my favorite. I want my money now. Like J.G. Wentworth, you know those commercials? I want my champion now. But you know how Triple H and the other guy booked? You're going to win at WrestleMania. We're going to draw this out in 11 months, and then at WrestleMania, you're going to get your big moment. And once I started to realize that and really started to look at his storylines, and I could predict some of the biggest stuff, I think 5 or 7 years ago, I actually predicted who would win the big match. I think was it Brock or Taker or somebody? There was one big match that people were like, holy crap. And the only reason why is because I looked at it like a logical fan, not what I expected. And it was at that moment that I realized I just loved watching it. So if you're in the video this far and you're sitting here going, but then what are you at now? Well, that's what I was making money and I had views. I love the community aspect of the video game. WWE games. I liked logging on online and inviting people in to play. The friendships, the wrestling, the talking about what was going on. I don't super care enough to stop watching because something I didn't want to have happen happened. And I did a very poor job of communicating that. Even when Raw was boring or bad or 3 hours, I didn't have to be a part of this culture of a lot of influencers, and a lot of influencers do this, which put this in the young minds of people that you're allowed to just go and bash people. You're just allowed to be a horrible person online because you don't get what you want. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. See, my dad was one of those people he was one of those autistics that just kept quiet. He was shameful. I am one that just talks a lot and info drops. And a lot of the times it's because of stuff I care about. So especially those Twitter rants, it's trying to explain to my friends who's hurting in the moment, listen, I've done all the research. He's going to become champion in 6 months. That's what it was. And even if 6 months later he became champion and I came back, see, I told you so. That was like trying to talk to a friend who's like starving now, and you're like, dude, if you can wait 6 months, I'll take you to a buffet. Yeah, no, I get that. That's really appreciative. I'd love a buffet. Love it. I'd love the buffet. But I'm hungry now, and it would actually be cool if you could just give me a crumb, a scrap, a table scrap, something like that. And it was in that moment that I realized that's why when I announced Rob for Glory in October, when my ex broke up with me and I basically ran from the love of professional wrestling, I was not going to come back to this until I knew I was that damn confident in what I was going to do. And what I'm going to do is exactly something like this. I'm going to sit down with talent. I'm going to put my therapy, I'm going to put my physical therapy, how my shoulders are back, and I'm not rambling. I'm able to maintain a solid voice. It's like when I announced DPW. Once I found out I was autistic, and this is going to sound silly to some, for me, my body just has a fight or flight response. It just does it. It's done it my entire life. Even if I'm great at speaking or I thought I was an extrovert, deep down, I'm an introvert. I had to force that out of myself. But all it was for me, as a person with sciatica and a herniated disc, when I hunch over, it gets really bad. So imagine me trying to announce DPW. Now my throat muscles are getting tight. Physical therapy showed me this. And then all of a sudden, making his way to the ring. And then I start like making my voice fluctuate. So I got in the only booking I cared about, Brother booked, and I was not prepared for it. Now I put in the work and the effort, and I went out there and I crushed my butt at DPW. But I wasn't proud of the effort on screen. It was not worthy of ever bringing me back out. And it wasn't until I came home and just truly fell in love with wrestling again. And it was going to a friend's house and just watching wrestling and talking and seeing his flexibility and getting away from that horrible mindset of WWE's bad because I didn't get what I wanted. But what about everybody else that was there? Those stupid statements I've been making for 7 years, as dumb as they are. Hey, you know, guys, some people are just there for Nia Jax's makeup. And then instead of just being like, yeah, cool, we just go and bash that fan. Why? Not every fan has to know the history. Not every fan has to know the ins and out of the business. Some people just want to show up because they work 9 to 5 and then a wrestling show's their escape. Whatever draws you into your love of professional wrestling, I want to sit down and talk to some of your favorites. I want to get into their head, their mentals. I want to talk to them about their past successes, their future successes, where they see themselves in the industry. I want to break down and let them book themselves to see if any creative companies out there believe, hey, let's give this guy a shot or gal a shot. I want to sit down with people that's passion exudes like mine was from a fan perspective and maybe ask them, hey, well, you're chasing these goals for yourself. Are there anything else in your life you're missing out on? It's kind of like we find out now all the superstars that were our childhood and we see how their family lives were affected because they weren't taking care or they were taking care of their families via money, but they weren't there. They weren't around. And it was after my father's passing that I realized my father didn't need much. I could have just called him up once a week to talk wrestling. We could have had a match of the week. I could have gave him autographs. And I put in no effort. So when I was broken up with, I came back. I started going to therapy, physical therapy, church. I've been going for 5+ months. It hasn't changed me. It's not turned me into this super religious person. This is who I always was. I'm a people person deep down, and what this YouTube channel was always meant to be was to connect to wrestling fans. Now, my SEO and ADHD mind went in with, okay, I'm going to do Call of Duty. I can't get into Call of Duty. Let me get into wrestling. Okay, I'm actually really good at wrestling. Holy crap, I forgot I had a love of wrestling growing up, even though I stopped watching from like 02, 03 to 07, 08. And like I missed all that era. because I got into sports in high school, but you cannot take wrestling out of me. So I'm Eric Emanuel. I am going to sit down with some of your favorite wrestlers. People are going to get upset that it's going to be me talking to him and go, what has he done to deserve it? But at the end of the day, I've put in the work. And I think people are going to see that. And the people that put in the work on the other side of the ring, behind the curtain, they deserve the spotlight just as much. And that is my goal. To sit down with some of your favorites, past, present, future, people that may have been robbed of glory, no pun intended, or people that are looking for the payoff. Robbed of glory and the payoff. It's amazing what comes to you when you're true and authentic and you don't lie and rush things out for the views. I'm able to find out who I truly was. And deep down, that's a guy that loves this business and that scared kid in 2013. That was the first ever content creator and person that worked with WWE, who is under contract for months, who went above and beyond and quit because he wanted the rights to say the name of a murderer he will not even give the dignity to say now. Because I wanted to be edgy. And I gave up possibly the biggest opportunity to work with a company I love and respect, to have my online edginess. When it's that company and their morals and what they did, WWE, that made me and my dad closer. I don't have to get attached to the press, the puppies, the things from the past era that we may now look down upon, even if, honestly, that's what built us. That's what's going to have conversations like Becky Lynch is saying now with Rhea Ripley. Is she exploiting the business? This is all stuff I want to dive into because this is professional wrestling. We are professional wrestling fans, for the fans, by the fans. It just took John Cena's number one fan to say those words, never give up, and realize deep down, you have what it takes to succeed. Deep down, find it. You are masterminded. Until next time, Eric Emanuel, who do you want to see me talk to? Talk shortly.